Well, I don't know where we're at. I know what county we're in, but now we're in northern Minnesota and kind of doing a little bit of exploring. You know, we came over here, Crestliner was doing a photo shoot, and we grabbed one of the bass boats here. We're just hopping around basically near Park Rapids, which Jason Durham has guided out, what, 25 years? 30 years?
31 years.
31 years you've been guiding over in this area. And you know, the neat thing about Park Rapids where we're at is that it's not like there's just one destination lake that everybody knows about. There's, what'd you say, like 300 lakes?
400 within 25 miles.
Most people don't know about. And so we're just exploring these little lakes and talking about some tremendous bass and panfish opportunities. But we're just gonna go out, just classic Minnesota fishing, middle of summer. Fish are off the deep weed lines, and we're just gonna go out and hopefully wear out some fish and have some fun. So, got one? You're out a little ways further, weren't you?
Well, there's a big weed pile out there, but this is a good sized bass stuck in the weeds. You just have to go gingerly. That's a nice one. We'll take that. That's a nice fish. Yeah, and I just had it sitting there, and I mean, if there was a crayfish naturally in the lake that it was gonna eat, that bait would be sitting still, so you don't have to give it a lot of action for sure. So if you're visiting one of these small bodies of water like we're on today, you don't need to have super accurate mapping for one, because a lot of these lakes aren't accurately mapped. They're just using old rudimentary DNR maps on the sonar GPS systems. You can remap them, but if you just use your eyes, you're going to be able to find a lot. So I'm just looking for like little points that are coming out. You can even see vegetation right on the surface, and not necessarily lily pads or pencil reeds. You might just see weed tops sticking up of cabbage weed. Rock, you know, any type of rock. You can read the shoreline a little bit and see what you've got for a substrate just by coming off of the shoreline a bit. And then looking at the color of the water too. In this clear water, you can see where the water might appear really light, like a light tan, and then it turns dark. And where that color transitions, it's either a transition from sand to weeds, or it's a transition from shallow water to deep water. And casting right along those areas, those are highways for these fish. Hey. Hey.
Oh.
Oh, what do we got here? That's a nice fish.
Oh. Oh yeah, look how clear water. Oh wow, look at that. Yeah. That's a great bass. Oh, look at that. Get that craw out of her. Look at that. Oh, big old mouth on her. That is fun stuff. Fun stuff. That water is so clear. That just makes it fun and challenging. You know, I think if this water had some staining, we might be able to do some stuff a little shallower, but high suns, hardly any clouds. You can probably see down 10, 12 feet. And, you know, I think that's maybe worth pointing out too, Jason, is that if you ever wonder like where to start out, a lot of times I like to see how far down in the water that I can physically see. Like say I can see down 10 feet. A lot of times I'll start out just a few feet past that. It's just kind of a good starting point as far as where to fish. And that's kind of what we're seeing. You see down probably 10 feet, and that 10, 12 feet is kind of where we start catching them.
So what we were doing today is just fishing these really deep weed lines where the weed stopped growing. I mean, that's what we're referencing when we're talking about a weed line. And weeds can only grow to a certain depth, and that's all based on light penetration. So when we're fishing those drop-offs that drop fairly quickly, that have that big weed growth right on that drop, those areas are gonna house fish really no matter what lake you hit around here or in the upper Midwest. You can find a lot of lakes that have similar areas. You can find all species of fish along those weed lines this time of year. Once that deep weed growth has established, you're gonna have fish that sit in those areas through the rest of the season. There you go.
There we go. That fish, oh, wow. It feels like a good fish. Right as that jig fell down the ledge. Wow, this is a good fish. Definitely the best fish on I've had on today. Whoa, look at that. Oh wow, this is a big bass. Wow.
That's a good one.
Oh, that is a nice one. Come on. There we go. Oh, wow. That's a nice bass. Wow. Yeah, isn't that just a cool, simple crawfish imitation? They come pre-packaged. I mean, just easy way to catch fish. Yeah, look at that. Boy, that was fun. Look at that. Just that big mouth on them. God, that's fun. Oh, that is fun. And, you know, and that's the thing is, you know, we get, sometimes it's easy with fishing to make things overcomplicated, over-technical. This doesn't have to be, in the sense that, say if you're a cabin owner, you don't get a chance to fish much, maybe your kids are coming home, you want to take grandkids out fishing, whatever. This is just such a simple thing to do, in the sense that you come out in these northern Minnesota lakes. This works in a lot of places, but you just see where these weed lines drop off into deep water. You have deep water, sharp break next to deep weeds. Middle of summer, you know, it's middle of July right now. You're gonna catch bass. And you know, a lot of this stuff, you can just buy it pre-packaged. I mean, you can put together a Texas rig, a shaky head, a Ned rig. All that stuff's gonna catch fish. But these, I mean, you just take them out of the package, tie it on, cast it out, let it hit the bottom, twitch it, let it hit the bottom. Really a simple, easy way to catch some impressive fish. Now these Northland Critter Craws, they come pre-packaged, where you can see here the plastic's right on the jig head body, and so you just buy these assembled, so it's just really easy. You basically just tie it on, and they're so easy to fish. We're just getting off on the edge of the weed line where the weeds stop, and you just have that wall of weeds. It creates that shadow, that shade, and we're basically just casting these jigs out along that edge, letting them sink right down to the bottom, and then just twitching it back. And so when you see these in the water, you'll see how the pinchers just kind of flap in the water, but you want to work this like a crayfish, just short little hops, short little twitches. You could probably cast and reel them back and catch fish at times too, but the big thing is, as far as just mimicking a crayfish, these just do such a great job of that. They just look just like a crayfish in the water. They've got great action. They're very affordable. You know, you just tie one on and fish, and so just a really easy way to catch fish in these northern Minnesota lakes.
There we go. Oh,
Got him.
It's coming up, it's coming up. This is good fish.
Oh yeah.
Now that one didn't like pop it or anything. I didn't see my line jump off the water. It felt kind of like a weed, and they'll do that sometimes. I just
saw your rod tip just start to move.
Yeah,
start to swim away.
And you feel it. It's like kicking a door.
Yeah.
It's just like thunk. You just feel that life.
Nice fish.
Nice fish. There we go. And yeah, because that bait moves so naturally, they try to just eat it. I mean, that's a good solid bass for sure. Thanks, buddy. What we see a lot when we're tournament fishing and putting fish in the live well, largemouth bass or even smallmouth bass in the live well, once you open that compartment, an hour later, a few hours later, you'll see a lot of crayfish parts floating around in the live well, and it just demonstrates how important those crustaceans are to that fish's diet. We see that in all of the lakes around here. They'll definitely eat sunfish, they'll definitely eat minnows, bullheads. They gorge themselves on bullheads as well. But those crayfish are pretty easy to pick off, and they're so abundant that you're going to see that as a primary part of their diets, no matter which lake you fish around here. That's a nice one.
Got a good one?
It's a decent fish. It's not huge, but it's nice.
Sometimes they get under the weeds and it's hard to tell.
This one's got another one following it too.
No kidding. Acting like smallmouth.
Yeah, they're acting like smallmouth. It dumped off in this deeper water, but
not a bad fish.
no. I'd take those all day, any day. Beautiful. Yeah, I think sometimes people try to give this bait too much action, actually, and they're twitching it too much. You got to give it just some time and let it sink down to the bottom. I mean, really, they're gonna hit it when it's not moving. They like that action, but when it stops is when you actually get the bite. I see you casted right in the same spot trying to catch that chaser. That was a good idea.
You look at Park Rapids, I mean, how many lakes are within, say, 30 miles of Park Rapids?
30 miles?
Yeah.
Well, there's over 400 within 25.
400 within 25, okay.
So 30?
Basically more than what you could fish in a lifetime, maybe.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
It would take you a lifetime to...
There's a lot of lakes I haven't even ever been on. Part of it is because of access. I mean, there's a lot of really small lakes. We don't have anything that's huge, but within that 25 miles, you've got Leech Lake, third largest lake in Minnesota. Yeah. So you do have a lot of variety. And though this water is ultra clear, you can find lakes that have a little more color to them. And you can just choose your lake depending on the day, whatever the conditions are. But yeah, you can just choose a lake that fits whatever condition you have.
You know, you look at the water visibility, extremely clear water. Okay, you can see down 10 feet in a lot of cases, sometimes even more in a lot of these lakes here in northern Minnesota. And with that clear water, you're gonna have deeper weed growth where these weeds might quit in, say, 20 feet of water. And a lot of times when you're trying to break down a spot or visualize where these fish are, think of shade in the sense that if you look up on the shoreline, see where the angle of the sun is, see where the shade's getting cast by the trees. You know, these tall stands of weeds will cast a shadow the same way. Okay, and so a lot of times you're just looking for that shade at the bottom of that weed stand. And some of these weeds, they might grow up 10, 12, 13 feet tall. And at the bottom of it, you just have this nice band of dark, cool water, you know, where you're shaded from the sun. And this clear water, I can't stress that enough. Follow the shade, because as that sun changes in the sky and changes angle, that shade's gonna change on that point or on that spot or on that particular clump of weeds. And those fish will move with it. And so, you know, you're looking for fish, look for the shade, look for the shadow. And a lot of times it's that simple as far as trying to catch these bass.
There you go. There you go. I see that way up there. That's a nice fish.
Whoa. Oh, that fish was up a little ways. It is a nice bass. That was just a little tick in the line. Open up. There. Look at that. They're just eating that. Fun stuff. And talk about accessible, I tell you what, across northern Minnesota, there are so many lakes where you can do this. It doesn't take a lot of gear. I mean, that's the thing. I think if there's a pet peeve that I have with fishing is people that complain about how fishing's ruined and everything is bad, there's too many people, there's forward-facing sonar, there's this, there's that, life is terrible. Tell you what, there's some phenomenal fishing in the Midwest, and it doesn't take a lot of gear. We're in a small boat, we're targeting small lakes, which you can go on the Minnesota DNR website, find out all kinds of different information on lakes, and just go out and explore and have fun. Is every day great? No, but you can really find some really cool opportunities. It doesn't take a lot of gear. This is something that anybody can do. If you have a desire to catch fish, this is fun. There we go. Don't know what it is. Oh, nice bass.
There's a good one.
That fish is down the weed line a little bit here. Or down that deeper water.
Yeah.
Boy, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, come here. I'm just gonna boat flip her. Oh, that's a good fish. Wow. Just gorgeous fish. They haven't been messed with much, you can tell that. There we go. Good stuff. You know, I kind of like places where you can go. Like, we haven't seen another boat out here. I mean, we've seen some boats on lifts and things like that. I mean, so we know that there's people that are out here fishing, but you know, there's not a lot of little, you know, we're not seeing a lot of people on these little lakes. I guess you'd call it under the radar, but it's kind of a deal where if something looks fishy, like, you know, you look at a overview of the map, you'll see maybe a couple islands, a couple of big points that stick out. Just whatever looks fishy, you just go there, and the fish are kind of doing what they're supposed to be. You know, you don't have to think about what other people are doing. You don't have to outthink other people. It's pretty straightforward fishing. It's kind of fun to just come out here and wear yourself out.
There's no competition with other boats for spots, for territory.
Yeah.
And you know, you don't have to overthink it in terms of, you know, the fish being affected or moving because of a lot of pleasure boaters out here or anything like that.
Yeah, it's pretty intriguing. I mean, it's kind of cool that there's places like this.
That's why I live here.
Yeah, I can see why. There you go. Good fish.
No.
It's getting bigger.
It's not terrible.
Oh yeah, nice bass.
There we go. That's a nice one. And here I was talking about catching them when your bait's sitting still, and that definitely was not the case. I was swimming it back to the boat and it just smashed it. But you think about crayfish in the natural environment, that, you know, they're going to swim away from these predators too. There we go.
Boy, look at how deep that jig is.
But not hard to get out. Beautiful fish, beautiful fish. Boy, that was a good fight. Another just beautiful average fish. We've caught so many today, and we have had such a fun time out here. We've caught a ton of fish.
We have.
And the thing is, I don't know how many, but it doesn't matter. Those numbers are arbitrary. We could say anything that we want when we go into the bait shop, but the big thing is that we had a good time, and I had a great time.
Isn't it cool? You unload your boat, you put your trolling motor down, you go out in a circle around the lake. By the time you get back to the boat ramp, you've caught a lot of fish. Doesn't get any better.
We caught a lot of fish.
Gotta love this area.